And Nicolas Cage week continues on Pod Me If You Can. Lloyd is throwing us one with amazing Nicolas Cage facial hair. What do you got, Lloyd?
Today's episode is Kiss of Death, starring David Caruso, Samuel L. Jackson, Helen Hunt, Ving Rhames, and of course, Nicolas Cage. David Caruso plays Jimmy, an ex-con trying to get his life back together. He is asked to do one last job by his desperate cousin Ronnie. The job is a disaster as the police arrive and Jimmy is caught and placed in jail. While remaining silent and trying to serve his time, Jimmy's wife, played by Helen Hunt, is abused by his cousin and she is killed in a car crash. Jimmy sets out to exact revenge on his cousin. He must juggle rough gangsters led by Nicolas Cage and tough cops to make it out alive. Now, Kiss of Death is a loose remake of the 1947 noir film of the same name. It was written by one of my personal favourite writers, Richard Price, who wrote Clockers, which was turned into a film directed by Spike Lee. He, of course, wrote episodes of The Wire and one of my personal favourite movies of all time, The Wanderers. What Richard Price is really, really good at is zeroing in on the grey area. So a lot of times the villains are shown with a lot of care, with a lot of love and everything like that, and sometimes the heroes are shown corrupt and very cruel. There's never a clear black and white moment in any of his stories. His worlds seem really total and complete, and everything just seems really human. Kiss of Death came out in 1995. It is a noir movie with tough guys, corrupt cops, beautiful ladies, slick dialogue, everything I love in a movie. The great thing about this movie is how much detail there is in the characters. Samuel L. Jackson plays a cop with a bullet wound in his cheek, and his eye constantly leaks, and he constantly has to dab it with like a hanky. And you've also got Nicolas Cage, who's like a bodybuilding, asthmatic, psycho guy who can't stand having anything metal in his mouth, so he has to eat with plastic cutlery. All these characterizations brings a high level of richness to the movie, and Richard Price is full of those moments. I think it's really well done here. Now, the only issue with this movie is that there is too much story. Despite all the slick dialogue, the great performance and everything, it only goes in for 100 minutes, but by gosh, do they pack a lot in. Like, I found myself exhausted in the movie. There were so many things going on, from the prison scenes to the gangsters, the political entities, the law enforcement. You almost had to keep track of everything with a pad and pen. I personally think this would have been a really good 6-part HBO series rather than a movie, because you could make a movie on each of the characters in this movie. There was that much characterization. Now, the Nick Cage moment of this movie is when Nick Cage's father dies, and you know, he's really sad about it, and he's this bodybuilding like roid guy, and he's jumping up and down in this strip club like trying to pump himself up or psych himself out of it, and a customer accidentally bumps into him and he just snaps and starts beating up the customer, like punching him and crazy. It is a really tyrannical role that Nicolas Cage plays, and I think he does a fantastic job in the movie. Only him has that, you know, that psychotic, schizophrenic, like, you know, where he just snaps in and out. I think he's fantastic in the movie, and he has a huge screen presence. Like, I never realized how big Nick Cage was, like, unless they just cast specifically smaller guys, but he just appears as a really larger than life guy. I think it's a really good performance by Nick Cage.
Now, Lloyd's brother Josh, big shout out to Josh, is a bodybuilder, so you've got some insight here. With Nicolas Cage playing a bodybuilder in this film, I'm guessing that he really bulked up for the role?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, specifically his arms. He wears a lot of sleeveless shirts, and his arms just seem like there's not a lot of tone in it, but just seems larger than life. Unless David Caruso and all the other actors are really small in real life, Nicolas Cage just seems to tower over everyone. It's such a strong screen presence. It's pretty amazing. Like, I'm trying to think of a Nicolas Cage movie in the past, where he leaving Las Vegas, like he plays like a smaller guy, and in this movie he's just huge, you know, so it's very interesting duality type role.
I remember in National Treasure they cast him alongside a guy who seemed much shorter, and so he kind of physically, you know, was quite dominant in the frame. Oh,
I see.
But I don't know if that was on purpose anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, no explanation as to the facial hair. Is he foreign?
No, he's just a tough gangster. Are you talking about the goatee?
I believe so, yeah. It's on the poster there.
No, he's just a tough gangster.
So Kiss of Death, good stuff? Good action film?
I actually think this is a very solid achievement for the early to mid-90s, a very underrated noir movie. It's better than most of the 90s noir movies I've seen. But again, just too much story. You're really exhausted by the end of it.
Nice. All right. Well, find more Nicolas Cage movies this week from us. We're dropping them all in our YouTube channel, youtube.com/podme if you can. And you can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/podme if you can, and let us know which Nicolas Cage films you'd like us to try and cover this week. All right, Lloyd, talk to you next time.
See you then, Dave.